Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. You know we love to geek out about languages here. And today we're tackling something that can be a little tricky in Spanish.
Oh, what's that?
Indefinite pronouns. But don't worry, we've got a great guide.
Oh, good. I'm all ears.
We're diving into a YouTube tutorial by Jaime Lara. He's a Spanish teacher who breaks down these pronouns in a way that's super clear and easy to grasp.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I always appreciate a good teacher who can make complex topics accessible. So which pronouns is he focusing on?
He's tackling todos, uno, and varios. And trust me, there's more to them than meets the eye.
I'm intrigued already, especially because those pronouns can be a little slippery.
Yeah.
Sometimes they seem straightforward, but then they throw you a curveball.
Exactly. Like, take todos and todas. We often think of them as simply meaning all.
Right, like all the students or all the books.
But Jaime points out that they can also function like everyone in English.
Oh, I see. So like everyone is welcome, as opposed to all the guests are here.
You got it. It's a subtle difference. But it's important to understand how these pronouns can shift their meaning depending on the context.
And that's what makes Spanish grammar so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It's all about those nuances and how they contribute to the overall meaning.
For sure. And Jaime really emphasizes something that's key to using todos and todas correctly. Spanish loves agreement.
Ah, that infamous agreement. Everything has to match up just so.
Exactly. So when you use todos or todas, you have to make sure the noun it modifies agrees in both gender and number.
So give us an example. How does that work in a real sentence?
Okay, think about the phrase, todos los niños. All the boys, todos, is masculine plural. And so is niños los is the masculine plural definite article. It all has to be in harmony.
It's like Spanish grammar has this built-in sense of elegance, right? Everything has to flow together.
I love that elegance. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And it's not just about articles either. Jaime gives examples with possessives like todas mis hijas, all my daughters, keeping it all feminine plural.
Right, because you wouldn't say todos mis hijas. You just wouldn't sound right.
Exactly. And it goes for demonstratives too, like todo estos libros, all these books. Everything has to match.
It's like this beautiful dance between the different parts of speech.
Yeah.
And it even extends to personal pronouns, right?
Yes, he uses the example, todas nosotras, all of us, but specifically when talking about a feminine group.
It really highlights how interconnected Spanish grammar is.
Yeah.
You can't just learn one piece in isolation. You have to see how it fits into the whole system.
And speaking of interconnectedness, Jaime sneakily mentions that he has other videos explaining articles, possessives, and other grammar concepts.
Smart marketing.
Right.
It makes you realize how much there is to learn and how understanding one part of Spanish opens up so much more.
Totally. Okay, so moving on to uno and una. This is where things got a little tricky for me at first.
Oh, how so?
Well, I always thought of them as just meaning a or n, like indefinite articles.
Right, that's how they're often introduced. But they have a secret life, don't they?
They do. They can also act as indefinite pronouns. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What's the difference between those two functions?
So with una and una as articles, you're just talking about any old noun, right?
Like a book or a house.
Right.
Just general, non-specific.
But when they're used as pronouns, you're talking about a specific but unidentified person or thing.
So it's like you're singling out one particular thing,
Yeah.
but we don't know exactly which one yet.
Exactly. It's like saying one woman is asking for you, but you don't know which woman.
Ah, that makes sense.
Right.
It adds a little mystery to the sentence.
Right. Jaime gives this example. Una mujer está preguntando por vosotros. It's not just some random woman. It's one specific woman. We just don't know who she is yet.
It's a great way to create a sense of intrigue. And it's different from just saying, hay unos chicos fuera, there are some boys outside.
Yes, because in that case, we don't know exactly how many boys there are.
So uno and una, as pronouns, really pinpoint a specific quantity, one, even if we don't know the identity of that one thing or person.
You got it. And speaking of quantities, Jaime mentions that there's another way to say unos, but he saves it for another video.
He's good at leaving us wanting more, isn't he?
He is. He's a master of the cliffhanger. But hey, it keeps us coming back for more Spanish grammar. Goodness.
It's true. Now, before we move on, I wanted to ask about something else Jaime brings up, this unona de construction.
Oh, yeah. That's an important one. What did you find interesting about it?
Well, he points out that even when the noun after de is plural, uno or una always stays singular.
Right. Like he gives examples, una de mis primas, one of my cousins, uno de estos lápices, one of these pencils, and una de las madres, one of the mothers.
And it seems counterintuitive, right? Because you're talking about a group, but the pronoun stays singular.
It does, but there's a good reason for it, and Jaime explains it beautifully. Keeping unona the singular avoids any confusion about the quantity.
So it's all about clarity, making sure the listener knows we're talking about a single item from a larger group.
Exactly. And it's one of those subtle things that can really trip up language learners. So it's great that Jaime highlights it so clearly.
It's these little details that can really make a difference in how fluent you sound. Right? Because native speakers would never make that mistake.
Absolutely. It's all about mastering those nuances.
Well, I'm definitely learning a lot from this deep dive. And I'm excited to hear what Amy has to say about varios and varias next. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of these fascinating pronouns.
Me too. And I have a feeling Jaime has a lot more insights to share, but that's a story for another deep dive.
So you know what's interesting about all these indefinite pronouns?
What's that?
They all kind of tie back to other parts of Spanish grammar, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Jaime keeps bringing up those other grammar concepts like articles and possessives and all that.
Exactly. Like he's saying, hey, if you want to really master these pronouns, you got to understand how the whole system works.
Makes sense. You can't just learn things in isolation, right? It's all connected.
Totally. And I think that's a key takeaway for anyone learning a language. It's not just about memorizing vocabulary. It's about understanding the grammar, the rules, the way things fit together.
For sure. And that's what makes Jaime's videos so helpful. He doesn't just give you the definitions. He explains the why behind the what.
Exactly. Like with that unana, the construction, he could have just said, hey, it stays singular, even when the noun after it's plural, and left it at that.
Right. But he actually explains why it's so important to keep it singular.
It's all about clarity, right?
Yeah.
Making sure there's no confusion about the quantity.
Totally. And I think that's something that a lot of language learners struggle with, those little details that can trip you up if you're not careful.
Oh, absolutely. And native speakers just do those things automatically without even thinking about it.
It's like they have this internal grammar compass that guides them.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's what we're trying to develop here, our own internal Spanish grammar compass.
I like that. So speaking of those tricky details, Jaime gives this really interesting example with varios and varias.
Oh, yeah.
It's one where he talks about using them with personal pronouns. He says something like, varios de vosotros no fuisteis a la fiesta.
Oh, right. Several of you didn't go to the party.
Exactly. And what's so cool about that example is how the verb agrees with vosotros, even though varias is technically the subject of the sentence.
It's like varios is just pointing to a subgroup within the larger group of vosotros.
Right. It's saying, hey, within this group of you all, there are several who didn't go to the party.
And the verb has to reflect that plurality, even though the word varios itself is kind of ambiguous.
It's a subtle distinction, but it's those nuances that can really make your Spanish sound more natural and fluent.
Absolutely. And it shows how much thought goes into constructing a Spanish sentence, even a seemingly simple one.
Totally. And Jaime gives another example with the feminine group. Varias de nosotras nos quedamos en casa. Several of us stayed home.
Again, that plural agreement is crucial. It emphasizes that we're talking about more than one person.
It's like those little details add an extra layer of precision to the language.
They do, and it's something that you might not even notice consciously, but it makes a big difference in how native speakers perceive your Spanish.
For sure. So we've covered todos, todas, unona, and now varios, varias. What's next on our indefinite pronoun journey?
Well, Jaime wraps up this particular video with a nice recap of those three pronouns. He reminds us that todos, todas is about the totality of a group. Varios, varias is for an undefined number within a group. And unona picks out a single, unspecified member.
It's a good reminder, especially since he's already hinted that there's more to come on indefinite pronouns.
Classic cliffhanger.
Right. He knows how to keep us hooked. But it makes sense. There's a whole world of indefinite pronouns in Spanish.
There is. And I think what Jaime is trying to show us is that by understanding the underlying grammar, we can approach any of them with confidence.
That's a great point. It's like he's giving us the tools to become independent learners, rather than just spoon-feeding us information.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. It's not just about learning a few pronouns. It's about gaining a deeper understanding of how Spanish works as a system.
It's like we're not just learning the words, we're learning how to think in Spanish.
I love that. It's like we're rewiring our brains a little bit.
So for our listeners out there, if you're feeling inspired to explore more of these grammatical connections, I highly recommend checking out Jaime's channel. He's a fantastic resource.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to get curious and ask questions. The more you explore, the more you'll discover about this beautiful language.
And the more you'll start to see those aha moments, those moments where everything clicks into place.
Exactly. And those moments are what make language learning so rewarding.
So true. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to circle back to something Jaime mentioned that really struck me. Remember how he kept emphasizing the interconnectedness of Spanish grammar?
Yeah. How mastering one element can unlock a deeper understanding of others.
Right. And I think that's such an important takeaway for language learners. It's easy to get bogged down in the details, but it's those connections that make the learning process so rewarding.
It's like those individual pieces of the puzzle suddenly start fitting together to reveal a bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's what we've been doing here today, putting together the pieces of the indefinite pronoun puzzle.
And along the way, we've also been exploring the bigger picture of Spanish grammar, how it all works together to create meaning.
And that's what makes this deep dive so much more than just vocabulary lesson. It's a journey into the heart of the Spanish language.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, and you know what? It's contagious. Jaime's passion for it makes me want to go back and review like all my articles and stuff.
Right. It really highlights that you never stop learning a language.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Spanish indefinite pronouns, we've learned about todos and todas for the whole group.
Uno and una for that single mysterious element.
Right, and varios when we want to talk about a bunch of them, but we're not saying exactly how many.
And it's more than just knowing what they mean. We also got into all those nitty-gritty grammar rules that make them work.
Like how todos and todas got to agree with the noun they're with.
Or how unona de always stays singular, no matter what comes after it.
It's amazing how much goes into making even a simple Spanish sentence sound, right?
Totally. And I think one of the biggest things we've learned is that to use these pronouns, right, you got to get those grammar basics down pat.
It's like Jaime said, it's not about just memorizing words. It's about understanding the whole system, seeing how everything connects.
And that's when it gets really cool. It's like you're not just speaking Spanish, you're actually thinking in Spanish.
Exactly. So before we say hasta luego, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Yeah.
Remember how Jaime kept bringing up those other grammar things, like articles and possessives?
Yeah, he was like a broken record with that. But it was for a good reason, right?
It was. He was showing us how important those building blocks are. So here's the question for everyone. Think about how mastering those basics actually makes using these indefinite pronouns easier and better. How does it change the way you approach Spanish?
That's a great point to ponder. It really shows how language learning is about so much more than just vocab.
Well said. So thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Spanish indefinite pronouns.
We had fun exploring all the ins and outs with you.
And we hope you learned something new and exciting along the way.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing with Spanish.
Adios.